Good evening, and thank you for joining us this Saturday, August 28th, for the virtual community meeting for the Monument Fire. My name is Scott McLean. I'm an incident information officer assigned to the Monument Fire. This evening's community meeting will consist of presentations from the assigned agency representatives and will conclude with a question and answer segment, as I said, at the end. This meeting is being conducted virtually due to COVID precautions that are currently in place. With that, we ask that you please submit your questions during the presentation through the comment sections of both Facebook and YouTube. Also available for questions will be from the Trinity County OES, Ed Presley, the Trinity County Sheriff, Tim Saxon, and CHP Sergeant Carl Steinkraus. As we begin, I want to start by providing with some context to the present day fire conditions taking place throughout the state of California. Currently, there are 14 major wildfires that are actively burning in the state. In addition to these fires, there were 34 new initial attack fires throughout the state yesterday, just yesterday alone. So every day there are fires that do start throughout the state. Just over 1.7 million acres has burned to date in this state. More than 15,000 firefighters are actively engaged on fires from the state, local, tribal, and federal agencies. There are 1,113 fire engines assigned to the front lines of these fires, and that number doesn't even include the additional crews and equipment. In terms of air resources, there are 114 helicopters currently assigned to the incidents throughout the state. Fixed-wing aircraft are assigned daily, dependent on weather and smoke conditions at each incident to assist in suppression efforts. The Monument Fire is in unified command between CAL FIRE and the United States Forest Service. CAL FIRE SHASTA-TITY unit is represented by CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, who manages the South Zone. The SHASTA-TITY National Forest is represented by the Alaska Incident Management Team, who manages the North Zone. We continue to work hand in hand. Current statistics for the Monument Fire: current acreage is estimated at 161,133 acres. Containment remains at 23%. A total of 2,319 personnel are assigned to assist in mitigation efforts of this incident. Over 8,000 residents still remain threatened throughout this fire. Of the 50 structures that are listed as destroyed in the South Zone, we confirm that 20 of those are residential structures. Statistics for the North will be forthcoming. At this time, I would like to introduce Kari Otto, the SHASTA-TITY National Forest Deputy Forest Supervisor, to say a few words.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. We absolutely appreciate your time and appreciate you spending your Saturday evening with us yet again. So, wanted to talk about two things, if you would be so kind as to indulge me. The first is, as you listen to what's going on in the northern zone, and as operations walks you through that, you're going to hear discussion about a dozer line going in Hobo Gulch. Why is that important? Hobo Gulch is in the Trinity Alps Wilderness, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. I need to let you know that it was a really difficult decision to make, to ask for that authorization. It was a decision that we did everything we could not to put into play, but the tactics and the operations indicated, and the lack of resources indicated, that this is the best effort. So we had a discussion with the region office about a week and a half ago and got permission, and every day since then I have looked at the team and I have asked them, can we wait? Can we wait? Are the resources coming? And unfortunately, as you heard, the resources aren't coming. They are committed to other fires. There are higher priorities we are asking for and getting support, but not enough to keep this line from going in. So please know that it was a decision we did not make lightly. It was a decision we made collectively as a team, and it was a decision that we made in conjunction with our higher headquarters to make sure that it was the right thing to do for the protection of life and communities, and ultimately the protection of our natural resources. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, so before I had the privilege of working with the Forest Service, I had a different career. I had the privilege of serving in the military for almost 20 years, and it was a great life of service. And one of the things that appealed to me about working for the Forest Service is it is also a life of service. Our staffs and our staffs are absolutely committed to serving our communities and safeguarding our lands. Both careers, unfortunately, have a certain level of risk. And so you heard Tara earlier this week talk about the firefighter that was lost fighting a fire in Washington State. We did lose another firefighter in Washington State today. And then you'll notice that our flags are at half staff in honor of the military who have lost their lives in service to our country. So if you would please join me in a moment of silence in honor of those who have lost their lives in service to our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next, I'd like to bring up the Shasta Trinity Cal Fire Unit Chief, Bret Gouvea.
Good evening, Bret Gouvea, Cal Fire Shasta Trinity Unit Chief. A couple of things I'd like to talk about. Number one, the unified effort. We've talked about it throughout this fire. This fire's been going for some time. I can just assure you that the relationship between us and the U.S. Forest Service on this fire has been seamless. We meet constantly and reaffirm our priorities. And our priorities are the same. And that is to put this fire out, get our folks back into their communities, and get some normalcy back to things. And so I can assure you that that is happening. Number two, our number one priority is to get you back into your homes and remove that fear and that angst that a lot of you are feeling that aren't in your homes. So we are working very hard at that. I look at the men and women coming off the fire line every morning, and I can tell you that they are giving it everything they've got. It's tough. It's very tough terrain. And as my counterpart just spoke to, no new resources are coming in. These folks are out there giving it everything they've got every shift. And I will assure you they will get the job done. And we will be out of here. So I appreciate your patience, and I ask that you to continue to work with us and give us that patience, and we will see an end to this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. I'd also like to provide you with an update on current fire conditions. Cal Fire Incident Management Team 5, Deputy of Operations Chief Jim Hudson.
Good evening. I'll start up in the Junction City area, just below the zone break. Conditions in Junction City along Red Hill Road, Dutch Creek, all the way down to Evans Bar continue to stabilize. We have not had any fire progression in that area. Our objective was to hold the fire at the Dutch Creek area and prevent it from crossing the drainage, and we were able to meet that. Crews have been in there aggressively mopping up for the last 3 days now, and we haven't seen any fire growth and the amount of interior flare-ups has significantly reduced. So we've identified that piece of line as black line or containment line in that area. We will continue to have resources in there patrolling and looking for any hot spots on the line, as well as any interior flare-ups or hazards such as trees or any hot spots around structures and homes. Our contingency line remains in place. We actually improved that and widened it a little bit today, just to the north of the fire through this area, north of Highway 299. And you'll see heavy equipment in that area. Contingency lines remain in place for the east as we move towards Douglas City, but we don't anticipate having to utilize those, but they remain in place. As we move to the south down to the Maxwell Creek area, as I stated, we've got a containment line just south of Evans Bar, almost to Maxwell Creek Road. Last time I reported to you, we had a flare up and a spot fire that came out here. Crews are aggressively mopping that up, and we anticipate as identifying that area piece of line as contained or black line in the next 1 to 2 operational periods. The other spot fire that we had, that has been rung with dozers, and we've been aggressively mopping it up. We're not ready to call it black line or containment line, and that is quite yet, but that is the Shake Ridge area above Alder Gulch. And you'll see a heavy presence of engine companies and fire crews in that area. 2 days ago, we saw some fire growth out of the west off of out towards Garden Gulch Lane. That forward progression was stopped, and crews continue to mop up, improve the lines there. We have hose all the way around it, so you'll see a large amount of activity in there with our resources entering that area off Garden Gulch and Baxter Creek Road. Hayfork, which has been our priority the last week or so. We had the north winds that really pushed the fire down out of the south into that area. Just due north of Hayfork proper, the lines have continued to hold there. We haven't had any growth, aggressive mop up, really trying to cool those edges in that area. And that is in the area of, we've been making access Farmer Ranch Road, Demos Court, and Carter Gulch Road. So a lot of resources in that area, but no fire growth. The area that's challenged us the most is in northwestern Hayfork. We didn't see any growth yesterday in that area. That was the first time since really CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 arrived. The winds really funneled down in that area. We didn't have any growth yesterday, so a lot of dozer lines been in place. We continue to work around the fire and mop up. Specifically, that's the Bean Gulch Road area and Cedar Gulch area. So we've also continued to surge engines in that area as we have had resources coming available and aggressive mop up. We are putting a lot of line out in that area towards the west to prevent in anticipation if there's any forward move or southern movement off the edge of the fire. We have heavy equipment working in the Sims Gap down to High and Palm Road, and we put in some lines in there to slow the progression of the fire should it move that way. We're also building a large contingency line around Hayfork to the south that's going to come around the Drinkwater Gulch area and culminate in the Tule Creek Road area. So that, we don't necessarily anticipate having to use that anytime soon, but it is a nice fail safe to have as should there be any unseen circumstances, a large spot fire that comes out of the main body of the fire. So that's what the crews are doing in that area. Both on the north zone break and the south zone break, we continue to work in coordination with the Alaska team and their branch 10 and branch 40 and share resources and improve the lines in those areas. And you'll continue, but heavy presence in this northwestern Hayfork area for the next few days at least. So we'll continue to surge resources in there, and no reports of structure damage or loss in the area to this point. And we'll continue to be hitting that area hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd like to introduce North Zone Operations is the Alaska Incident Management Team Operations Chief, Karen Scholl.
All right, good afternoon. In the North Zone, we'll start over on the far western side in our Division Alpha in the Underwood Mountain Road area. Crews continue to mop up. They're getting more and more depth. It's a long distance with few crews, so it's just time consuming. But the line continues to hold, and we continue to get depth in that area. Up in the Burnt Ranch area, we're just getting we're refamiliarizing ourselves as we turn over crews. Burnt Ranch is basically status quo from the last time we talked. Fire has not crossed into the New River, into the confluence. We did have a spot fire go across there the day before yesterday. We were able to wash it off the hill. It was down low, washed it off with helicopter bucket drops, and then we inserted repellers into that confluence, into that real steep, rugged country, and they're patrolling in case we get any more spots, especially over the next couple of days with the hot and dry weather. In the New River, we've not been able to get the folks in there, appropriate resources to continue to do anything in the New River, in the Big Creek area. So, and the fire did spot across the Big Creek drainage, and so we pulled our folks out and our focus is again on our primary line, the indirect that runs up to the Trinity Wilderness, and then all the way back down. We've got multiple, a main dozer line, and then we've got some additional check lines to try and act as a catcher's mitt basically in that area. All of the line is in, and we're working to improve the lines with mastication and brushing and widening the lines out. In the Hoboken and Daly area, pretty much done with the structure protection there, and we'll be looking towards Denny to start getting plans together and our supplies and equipment to do structure protection up in Denny. Trinity Village and Hawkins Bar, all the assessments, the work that needs to be done as far as the dozer lines and the structure protection are pretty much all in place there. Everything's sitting real pat, and we're just tidying things up and strengthening where we can. We're also looking for other opportunities on different ridges, and have scouts talking to folks that have been around a while and know where some old dozer lines are. So we're looking to do and improve anything we can in the protection of Trinity Village and Hawkins Bar. The fire that is on Ironside has backed all the way down to the Trinity and New River. However, there are still internal pockets that are burning out and have potential to spot across. So we still have crews and eyes on the west side of the Trinity, or the south side of the Trinity, looking over and just ensuring we don't get any spot fires established in that area. As we move to the north of the fire, in Big French Creek, we don't have anyone at the very north as it wants to move north. However, today in the Big French Creek area, there was a very large column coming out of that area. To the east of that, near the Waldorf crossing, again, it's very hot, very active, not a lot of growth, but there's a lot of fuels to be consumed, and so that's very active. And then as we get closer to the North Fork of the Trinity, on Manzanita Ridge, we do have fire established on the ridge and is backing down on both sides. We're keeping an eye on it with the infrared technology that we have, and just checking its progress. We did get a crew to come in to the 11W, the Waldorf Crossing trail, and they were able to brush out the trail down to the North Fork, and at that point, past that is not really viable. But that Waldorf Crossing trail should act as a check line and somewhere where we could potentially fire off of when our hand gets pushed in that direction. We reached the East Fork. The East Fork Road is prepped up to the Hobo Gulch Road, and the Hobo Gulch Road is prepped all the way up to where the Ross station is. As Kari talked about it earlier, we are pushing a dozer line up the Backbone Ridge Trail. It's about a 3-mile piece that does go into the wilderness. We asked for this, and we take it to heart that we understand that the Trinity Wilderness is a great place and a beloved place, and we are using the minimalist tactics that we can in order to achieve the highest chance of success of holding fire west of and keep it out of the East Fork of the Trinity, where it has potential to come down. So with that in mind, we've got dozers, a dozer doing a scrape, and we're also just using a crew to brush and snag in that area. We are using the appropriate dozer with the appropriate boss leading that dozer, and we've got resource advisors out there also, and we're going to make it the smallest dozer line that we can, that we have faith that it will hold. So that's we're taking a lot of care in there, and we'll be as minimalistic as we can to give our firefighters the best chance at holding it. As we move east of Helena, we've got hand line and dozer line all the way up to Canyon Creek. This is being continuously improved. It's being widened and then masticated. The access roads are being improved to give us a good chance of holding line there should it cross the East Fork. This is tricky terrain in here, as you know. We have the main drainages run north and south, and then we've got drainages that run east and west. And that with the Trinity River corridor, if fire does get established in this area, it does want to suck towards the south, come down and get sucked into the Trinity River corridor. So we are well aware of that, and we are trying to fortify the contingency line in that if that eventuality happens. Additionally, we are working with CAL FIRE, as Jim said, on building contingency and alternate lines to the north and west of Weaverville. And we're using masticators and dozers to open up old lines to fortify the protection of Weaverville. We still continue to have a presence in the 299 corridor, both from the east and the west. We do have flare-ups on the hillsides, and the residents that are back in that area keep letting us know when they see something that they don't like, and so we go and check it out and make sure that it indeed is far enough on the hillside it's not an impact on the residents there. As we move around to the west side of the CAL FIRE area and into our southern part of the fire along Pattison Ridge, we've been able to put some check lines towards Knowles Gulch in order to keep the fire from advancing to the west, and that's been holding for the last couple of days. We are expecting some increased fire behavior both today and tomorrow as the winds want to swing around and we get clear air. When we get that clear air, we get bigger, higher, more activity, fire behavior activity there, and so we're just trying to slow that advancement to the west. While that advancement is being slowed, we've been able to complete the dozer line down the Pattison Peak Trail as well as the Pattison Jeep Trail, and we are now pushing down south and then taking it east across the Judd Creek area and tying it back in to the High and Palm Road near 9 Mile Bridge, which is where CAL FIRE teams are coming across. This is the primary line. As I've explained before, the primary gives us the highest probability of success as the fire wants to come out of the mountains. This is more favorable terrain. However, we have identified some additional areas that we can push some dozer line to try and bring the containment lines closer to the fire. These are less probable, but given the right conditions and if given the right resources, are possible for us to maintain the fire in a smaller footprint. So with our primary lines being back further, we feel more comfortable trying to go after portions of the fire to make it a little bit smaller footprint, and we'll look for opportunities to do that. We have no intention at this point of firing from 9 Mile Bridge anywhere to the north on the Ham Palm Road. We're also improving the Ham Palm Road with mastication and brushing and snagging. So if we had all the right conditions, that is perhaps a holding or a checking feature and possibly a containment line. But we still think our best chance of containment is at the bigger area. So no intention of firing this. We are looking at and are supporting CAL FIRE in what they're trying to do with the Sims Gap and trying to go more direct on their piece. That would be really beneficial for us as well. So we are working in coordination with them and communicating on what their plans are and how we can support trying to keep this footprint as small as possible as it's closest to the Hayfork area. All the structures in the Ham Palm Road area have structural protection on them or have been identified, and we're waiting for the equipment and resources to put them out. As we move over into High and Palm, we've had several successful community meetings out there with our operations folks. They know what the plan is. They understand what we're trying to do, and we're also opening up some roads that head down and tie into the 36. So if we do have fire impingement across the High and Palm Road, there is a way for folks to evacuate out to the 36. So overall, that's what we have going on in the North Zone operations.
Thank you, Chief. We will now hear from the CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 Fire Behavior Analyst, Chief Troy Velin.
Hello, good evening. So since we spoke last, there hasn't been any dramatic change in weather or fire behavior. The primary mechanism of growth on this fire continues to primarily be critically dry fuels aided by very steep terrain. So the fire is hung up in many cases in high elevation, and as that fire rolls to the bottom of a drainage and crosses, and then it attempts to make gains up the opposing ridge. So that seems to be the main driver in all areas of the fire, but I'll briefly walk around the entire fire and give you some ideas of where this growth is occurring throughout both zones. So in the north zone, in the area just above Hyam Palm and Branch 40 Division Zulu, in this area here, the fire is backing down into Bear Creek. And as it does so, every afternoon, this is the area of the fire that gets a couple hours of clearing from that smoke that's been sitting on top of us for so long. We get a little bit of clearing in here, and that heat and the dry air, the humidity levels allow this to become more active in this area. And that's what's basically any of the growth that's happening is in that area due to that. Most of the rest of that branch 40 is pretty quiet line, only interior activity. As we get up into branch 1 in that Burnt Ranch Bell area, same thing, it's just rollout and then slope reversal and runs in that Big Creek area. As we move into the branch 10 area, the Big French drainage and the North Fork of the Trinity River, those are still areas where primary growth in that area is still just very steep terrain, rollout. The northern portion of this fire remains mostly covered by smoke, either by our own smoke or from the McCash fire, and the river complex continue to smoke this fire out nearly on a daily basis. As we get down into the south zone, Junction City, all the way down to Evans Bar, the only heat in this portion of the fire now is well interior. So all of the fuels in here are these heavy fuels have had plenty of time to burn down now. It's been well mopped up, so there is no threat to the line on this entire section of the fire. As we get down into branch 30 on the south zone, this push the other day, again, after we got a little bit of smoke clearing over here in this area above Hayfork, was a late west wind in the evening that took this drainage and just came out and pushed that ridge. So dry fuels, low humidities, and we had some spotting in here and created some active fire behavior for several hours. And then as we get over to this division Romeo, in this section here, the fire is backing down into Little Creek. And as it does so, again, roll out and then running back up towards the ridge is the primary mechanism of growth on the fire.
Thank you, Chief. Now is your chance to ask those questions as we go along. Make sure you reach out on your Facebook pages and or on your YouTube that you're watching. So now, one of the fire weather specialists for the incident, Angie Inyata.
Hey, good evening. My name's Angie Inyeti, and I'm the incident meteorologist that's working closely with the Alaska team. I have a partner who's been working with the Cal Fire team named Royce, and our job is to give weather intelligence. Weather is the most dynamic variables of the fire environment, and our job is to keep an eye on the weather conditions across the fire, always providing for firefighter safety, number one, but also to give weather intelligence and hopefully good forecasts to the team so it can assist them in their strategic operations. So as Troy mentioned earlier, we have been smoked in quite a bit across our firescape, actually for quite an extended duration. Today we had really weak winds across the fire. So in addition to our own smoke, we had smoke from the north settle in, even getting a little bit of smoke from the south as well. Despite that smoke hanging up over the fire, almost serves as like a lid, if you will, we still warmed up quite dramatically. In fact, Hayfork got down to 101 today with a humidity of only 8%. And our higher elevation weather station that we have is located located up near Backbone Ridge, and that got up to 91 and a relative humidity of about 11%. So it was just really oppressive conditions out there for the teams today, for the crews out there today. So that heat, that humidity combined with the smoke was really quite miserable. Getting into tomorrow, we are looking for a little bit more of a southwest wind, a transport wind. That type of wind helps really funnel the smoke. So we're looking for that southwest wind to start picking up into the afternoon hours, which could bring some clearing to portions of the western tier of our fire, and could align with some upslope flow as well, providing for some better ventilation. It will actually help the fire breathe. So we're keeping an eye on that. In addition, when we get any type of west flow across us, we can see some enhancement of that typical up canyon wind that we do see coming up the Trinity River Basin. So we can actually have some stronger gusts funneling up around 20-25 miles an hour or so. And that's in addition to the very warm temperatures. We're still looking for highs in the 90s across most of the fire tomorrow, and humidity is still critically low in the teens. So another heads up day for us tomorrow. I want to bring your attention over here to a tool that we use. There's also one at the CAL Fire side, and Royce, the other incident meteorologist, and I collaborate very closely on this tool. We call it a matrix or a dashboard, and this is a tool that we use to help the team in terms of strategic operations looking out in the future. Basically what we do is we highlight kind of the most critical weather conditions that could enhance fire behavior on a given day. So we're really focused on the weather in the late afternoon, evening hours, kind of the witching hour from when we could see an uptick in fire activity. And we take this out through the next 6 days. And the different weather parameters we have on here are temperature, humidity, wind conditions, sky or smoke cover. And depending on a threshold of that specific parameter, we color code it as either green as saying, okay, that ingredient on that given day is not really expected to enhance fire behavior that much. Yellow is a parameter that says, hey, heads up, this could promote fire behavior. And red is when, hey, we've got warm temperatures, dry humidities, and elevated wind conditions, which could really exacerbate extreme fire behavior. So today and tomorrow, Sunday specifically, you see more red blocks, right? So that's a day that's a heads up. So we're still heads up into getting into tomorrow. So with that southwest wind, as I was mentioning earlier, we could see a little bit more clearing, a little bit more ventilation. So tomorrow's definitely a heads up today for our teams. When we go ahead into the upcoming work week, that southwest flow, that westerly flow, can bring us some moderating temperatures, some cooling temperatures, and also a gradual improvement in humidity. So as we go into the latter portions of the week, we see more yellow boxes and less red. Not saying that conditions aren't conducive to really suppress the fire, but we don't quite have the vertical alignment of these heads-up indices as we get later in the week. So we are looking for a gradual cooling trend, a gradual moistening trend. So just another planning tool that we use here to help the team stay abreast of the weather, but we're always maintaining that weather watch to help keep our crews safe out there.
Thanks, Angie. Next, I'd like to introduce from the Shasta Trinity National Forest District Manager, Tara Jones.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, well, 2 weeks has flown by, and we're getting ready to say goodbye to our friends from the Alaska team. They will be transitioning out in the very near future, and we're ready to welcome back the California Federal IMT Team 5 will be rejoining us. So sad to see our new friends go, and excited to welcome our old friends back. Want to make sure I extend our deepest gratitude to the Alaska team. They have been very accommodating. They have met the ask that the forest has given them to protect our communities, keep our communities informed, and keep our public safe. So that have been the #1 priorities. And then also, hey, let's start getting some black line on the map, which they've done that as well. So we're very grateful for their time here and coming to visit us. I wish it was under better circumstances. Also want to let you know how much I appreciate the hospitality we had at our Willow Creek public meeting. It was well attended. It was a beautiful night out in Willow Creek with fresh air. I was super excited to be there, I'm not gonna lie, and the helicopter show was just an added benefit. So I wanna thank all the folks that came out, had great questions, and stuck around afterwards. I wanna let you know, I'll be in Coffee Creek tomorrow morning. Gonna drive up there and answer any questions, probably be at the store and around. Any questions about either the river complex or the monument fire in Coffee Creek. And tomorrow afternoon around 3, I'll be visiting our good friends in High and Palm and going out with our friends from Alaska Team 5 to go visit our friends out in High and Palm and keep you up to date as well. Want to let you know that regardless of what team is in, we will be continuing to keep you informed, both virtually and in public. So these public meetings and different forums will continue, the cooperator meetings as well. So we'll make sure that we're keeping all of you in the know. Third, I want to let you know that our primary purpose has never changed. It has always been public safety and the protection of our communities. Was it day one when the baton was passed to these nice folks, when they came in after the IMT-5, the federal team. That was what they were tasked with, and that has been their primary purpose, and that's the mission they have fulfilled. So along those lines, with the many successes we've had with saving homes, especially in that Highway 299 corridor, we are also aware that not everyone's home was spared. And so, you know, we feel bad for those folks, and we know that some people that got to go back into their homes. Not everyone had a happy ending, and you know, our condolences and are with those families as well. Moving on, I also especially want to highlight the PIO staff for each team, for the CAL FIRE's team, for the California Federal IMT-5 team, and also for this Alaska team. You have helped us build relationships with our community. You've been in the trenches with all of us, and have really gone out of your way to make sure that our public and our communities know what's going on. You've been transparent. There have been difficult decisions to make, and you've let the public know, what those factors were in making them. So I just want to thank all of you, especially thank the PIO staff, and I look forward to meeting with everyone tomorrow out in the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Now for some final words of this evening's presentation. I would like to bring up the Incident Commander of the Alaska Incident Management Team, Norm McDonald.
All right, good morning. Thanks, Scott. This has been 2 weeks that has flown by for us. A lot of work will do that. There's been a lot of hard work that's went in this fire. Some really good days and some tough days, but really proud of the work that we have done while we've been here. Our mission when we got here, and this was both real loud and clear from the Forest Service and Bret from CAL FIRE day one, is this is going to be one fire with 2 teams, and we're going to work together to do the best job we can for the communities out there, and that's what I feel we've done. I worked with Mike and his folks and the Alaska team and my staff just worked really close together with one mission of protecting the communities, protecting our firefighters, making sure we're doing a safe operation, and putting people in the right place, right time, right mission, and we've done that. And it's been difficult at times, and it's going to continue to be difficult over the coming weeks. But I will say, as somebody who goes all over the country and fights fires, the relationships here have been outstanding. And so I want to just thank the Forest and Mike and his team just for that good working relationship and really just dropping everything but the mission, which was just loud and clear from us, is take care of our communities. So we've done that a couple ways. We've done that in the field with our firefighters and the hard work out there. As is mentioned, we've done that with our public information staff, Kale and Sam and their people. This is about relationships. We've built those with the Forest, with the CAL FIRE folks, but also out in the communities where we're working in. So I appreciate that for everybody out there who's had a chance to interact with our staff, be part of these meetings. I know this is tough. It's a tough season, and you've had a couple tough seasons, and it's going to be a long one. So our thoughts are definitely with you. And before I turn it over to Mike to close out with the CAL FIRE side, I just want to say really appreciate the opportunity to be here and support you. I take this job, as Kari said, as a public servant seriously. I feel like we do this to serve our country, and when we're in California and up here around the Reading area, these communities that we're working with in and around. You know, my heart is out to you. I know it's been a tough summer, but we're really glad to be here, and hopefully our stay has helped out you in the long run. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike to close us out, and then we'll be around to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next is the Incident Commander of CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, Mike Parks.
Good evening. At the last committee meeting, we talked about specifically the South Zone of us being in quite a fight, and the beatings have continued. However, I will say that morale has improved. The map does not do justice to the amount of work that's been done by the line personnel that have been out there this entire time. The good news is we still see a lot of red on the map. However, it's kind of a black and white matrix at this point, or black and red, if you will. However, the truth of the matter is there's a lot more gray in here than we're able to show on the map. So there's a lot more, this looks a lot better than it portrays. We're not done. There's still a lot of work. However, this looks a lot better than it just shows strictly on a two-dimensional map. There's a lot of work still being done in around Hayfork. The fight continues there. And we continue to be short of resources as we have been the whole time. Because of that, I just want to take a moment to publicly acknowledge all of the line personnel that have been out there this entire time, regardless of zone, regardless of patch, because they have been outgunned and understaffed this entire time. However, they've fought and taken little bites every day, and they're making some incredible progress in spite of the shortcomings of staffing that we've just been forced to work with because of the other fires in the state. So every bit of a line on this fire has been earned, and they will continue to keep that going until we're done. So that's the big message of the day. It won't keep you long because the message is, I'm sorry, the situation is still largely the same. However, it is looking a lot better. There's still a lot of line to go, but at least on the southern edge, we are making a lot of good progress and hope to keep going over the next few days. Lastly, as usual, Norm couldn't have said any better. I would like to thank the extreme professionalism and cooperation that we have worked with the Alaska team and their time here, and I wish them safe travels on their next assignment. And I know everyone on the CAL FIRE IMT5 would work with them any other day of the week or any time, any place. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. This concludes our presentation portion of the community meeting. We will now answer the questions that were submitted during this evening presentation.
Any information about Barker Creek area?
Yeah, in the Barker Creek area, that was the obviously the area that had made the fire run the other day. It actually burned into the Barker Creek scar. We have held that area. It ran out on us late in the afternoon, and we were able to wrap it very early the next morning, and there's been no progression within that area. The lines have held. We have surged quite a few resources into that area, and we'll continue to do so tomorrow to really cool it off, get solid lines around it, and mop it up.
Any change with evacuation for Brady Road?
We're holding repopulation meetings daily in conjunction with the Trinity County Sheriff, Infrastructure, Public Utilities, OES, and the Alaska team. So at this point, without having a line identified as contained or black line on the map, it will remain evacuated going into tomorrow. We will continue to evacuate daily, assess the evacuation order daily. And our goal is to get people back in their homes. Know that it is one of our top priorities. It's life and getting you back home. So we'll continue to evaluate and keep you updated. There's been no fire growth, but there are still hazards in the area. There is the potential for a spot fire.
What is the containment around Douglas City? Since the eastern line is looking pretty good, when do you anticipate the warning lifted around there?
Again, Douglas City, you're correct. We do have a containment line all the way down to Evans Bar and pushing past. Once we're confident that this piece of line that we haven't deemed contained yet is solid. And then we're also, with the fire that's up to the north and we're in the north zone, we are coordinating that with the Alaska team as well. And then we'll coordinate it with Team 5 when they transition with the Alaska team to look at that area. There are east-west drainages above Junction City and Douglas City. So we just want to make sure that the fire is not going to run out of there and put you right back in a warning potentially.
In the south zone, what's the structure loss in the Hayfork area?
I don't have a solid count with me at this point in the Hayfork area. I'll defer that to Chief Parks, but as far as the run yesterday or 2 days ago into the Cedar Gulch area, we haven't had any reports of loss in that area.
Gideon, for any sort of structure loss and or official damage notices, we give that information to the County of Trinity, and it's up to them or at their discretion as when they and how they distribute that information. We expect our full damage report to be for the South Zone to be handed over to Trinity County OES tomorrow morning.
Is the National Guard working the fire?
They are working this fire and many others throughout the state in various capacities. As we mentioned at some of the other meetings, the Guard has a multitude of capabilities, and they are used differently in different incidents. They have air rescue capability, they have aerial firefighting capability, they have ground troops working on the fire lines right there with our hand crews. They have logistical support. So yes, we have a couple different of those assets here on this particular fire. One of the most probably important for us is their aerial rescue capability. They have a 24-hour aircraft that's assigned to rescue any downed firefighters day or night, that with hoist capability that we have assigned to this incident, and they have been used a couple of times on firefighter extractions. So yes, the short answer is yes, but it just depends on their capacity on some of the different incidents.
Thank you, Chief. We hope this presentation has been informative and ask that you please provide feedback in the comment section still to ensure that we are meeting your needs, the public. For phone numbers, various links, and the list of our and various social media platforms that will provide additional and current information, please continue to watch the streaming. It'll go on for a couple more minutes with that information. Thank you for attending. This concludes our meeting, and have a safe night. Thank you very much.